Bible in a year, making it easier to understand.
Imagine you've spent months, maybe even a year, building the most high-tech, expensive, gold-plated mobile headquarters the world has ever seen. You followed every blueprint to the millimeter. The curtains are hung, the gold is polished, and now, God actually moves in.
And suddenly, you realize you don't have the how-to manual for actually living with a roommate who is, well, the creator of the universe.
Exactly. It's like getting the keys to a Ferrari but realizing you don't know how to shift out of park without exploding the engine.
Welcome back to Bible in a Year, making it easier to understand. I'm Stephanie, the resident researcher who probably spends too much time looking into ancient skincare routines.
And I'm John, the guy who just wants to know why we're talking about shaving every hair off someone's body on day 47. Seriously, Steph, Numbers 8 it's a lot.
It really is. But before we get to the full-body wax of the Levites, we have to talk about the vibe shift. We've finished Exodus. The construction is over. Now we're in Numbers and Leviticus, which is essentially the operational genesis of the tabernacle. It's the shift from how do we build it to how do we not die while using it?
High stakes. How to not die 101. I love it.
Right? And it starts with light. Before any work happens in the tabernacle, Aaron is told to light the lamps. But there's this tiny, weird detail in Numbers 8, too. It says the 7 lamps have to give light in front of the lampstand.
Yeah, I saw that. Most people just skim that part, right? It's a lamp, it glows, big deal. But you found something deeper, didn't you?
Yes, the Hebrew word for the lighting is bihalacha. It doesn't just mean turn on the lights. It actually shares a root with the word aliyah, like to ascend or rise up.
Wait, so it's not just flicking a switch?
No, it's an ignition, a spark. It's taking a functional task, lighting a dark room, and turning it into a holy encounter. And that forward-facing instruction, the lampstand, or the menorah, was on the south side of the room. Directly across from it was the table of showbread, which held 12 loaves of bread representing the 12 tribes.
Okay, I'm picturing it. The room is dark, no windows, heavy veils, and the only light in the place is aimed specifically at the bread.
Precisely. It's God saying, "My light always shines on my people." The bread, the tribes, were never left in the dark. They were constantly illuminated by this hammered gold presence.
That's such a modern mirror moment, isn't it? It's like, we think we're just doing the chores, but the light is aimed at the relationship. But then, Steph, we move from the pretty gold lamps to the Levite makeover.
The Extreme Makeover Tabernacle Edition.
It's intense. Shave their whole bodies? Sprinkle them with water of purification? John Dalton would not survive that recruitment process. I like my beard too much.
Well, think about the context, John. The Levites were being taken as a substitute for all the firstborn sons of Israel. Remember Passover? God saved the firstborn, so technically, they belonged to him. But instead of taking one kid from every family to work at the tabernacle, he took the whole tribe of Levi.
So they're like the buffer.
Exactly. They are the human infrastructure. And that ritual, the shaving, the washing of clothes, it was a total reset. It's like when a leper was healed. They had to shave everything to show they were a new creation. It's a public, visible sign that says, I don't belong to my old life anymore. I'm a wave offering.
A wave offering? Like they just stood there and waved their arms?
Not quite. It's the Hebrew word tenufa. Usually, it's a piece of meat moved back and forth before God. But here, the people are the offering. They are being presented to God as living tools. They even had to do this thing called semaka.
Oh, I know this one. That's the leaning, right?
Yes, the community would lean heavily on the Levites. It's a transfer of identity. The people were saying, these guys are us. Their work is our work.
And they had a retirement plan. I love that. Numbers 8:24 says they start at 25 and retire at 50. But there's a little math hidden gem there, Steph. In other places, it says they start at 30.
Right. Most scholars think those first 5 years were an apprenticeship. Think about it. $30, 25 equals $5 years of training before you're allowed to handle the heavy lifting of the divine presence. You don't just walk in on day one and grab the Ark of the Covenant.
No interns allowed near the Holy of Holies. Got it. But okay, then we hit Numbers 9, and this is where it gets really relatable for me. It's the first anniversary of the Passover. Everyone's getting ready for the big meal, the rescue anniversary, and then a group of guys shows up looking totally stressed.
I love these guys. They are my favorite part of the chapter. They're unclean because they've touched a dead body.
And based on the timeline, some researchers think these might have been Mishael and Elazaphan.
Right, the cousins who had the somber job of burying Nadab and Abihu. They were doing a good thing. Burying the dead is a mercy duty, but it made them ritually unfit for the party.
And they're devastated. They literally ask Moses, "Why are we kept back?" It's like having FOMO, but for worship. They didn't see the law as a burden to escape. They saw the ritual as a verified blue check mark of belonging. They wanted in.
And Moses' response is so leader goals. He doesn't just guess. He says, "Stand still and let me hear what the Lord says."
Wait here, I gotta call the boss.
And God's answer is so gracious. He creates the second Passover. He basically says, if you're unclean or on a long trip, if life happened and you couldn't make it, I'll give you a 1-month grace period. 1 month later, on the 14th day of the second month, you get your own Passover.
It's a second chance provision. It shows that God cares more about the heart wanting to draw near than he does about the rigid calendar. As long as you aren't being lazy or indifferent, he makes a way.
But that's the kicker, John. If you're clean and you're home and you just don't show up, you're cut off. It's about the desire to be near, which perfectly sets the stage for Leviticus 1 through 3.
Oh boy, here we go. The manual of nearness, the Korban.
Exactly. Korban isn't just sacrifice in the sense of giving something up. It's from the root karaf, which means near or intimate. These offerings, the burnt, the grain, the peace, they are the vocabulary of how a messy human approaches a perfect God.
It's like a vibe check for the soul.
Exactly. And we have to understand the context. The tabernacle is finished, the cloud has moved in, and now God is inviting the average Israelite to step into the courtyard and say, I want to be close to you.
Man, I'm fired up. I need more coffee before we dive into the actual blood and grain, though.
Good call. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, John is going to explain why a peace offering is basically the ancient version of a dinner party with God.
And why you should never bring honey to an altar fire. Seriously, don't do it. We'll be right back. And we are back. I just had a double espresso, and I am feeling like I could carry the entire tabernacle on my back like a solo Levite. Steph, don't let me try that.
Please don't. We have a mortgage, and I need you in one piece. But seriously, John, we just left off talking about the second Passover and the heart of worship. But then we hit Leviticus 1 through 3. And if I'm honest, for the average person, especially for our Gen Z and millennial listeners, reading about splashing blood on an altar and burning fat and kidneys, it feels a little Texas Chainsaw Massacre at first. How do we pull the modern mirror out of this without it feeling like a dusty history lesson?
That's the challenge, right? But here's the deal. If you look past the butcher shop, what you're seeing in Leviticus 1 to 3 is the world's most sophisticated system for access. Think about it this way. Have you ever tried to get into a really exclusive club or a high-level networking event where you felt like you didn't belong?
Oh, 100%. I still feel like that every time I walk into a fancy tech store. I'm like, should I be here? Am I cool enough for this tablet?
Exactly. You feel the gap. You feel like you're not verified. Leviticus is God saying, there is a massive gap between my perfection and your mess. But I'm going to give you the VIP pass to bridge it. And the first pass is the Olah, the burnt offering.
Okay, the Olah. In segment 1, we mentioned it means ascension or to go up. But the mirror here is about total surrender, right?
Spot on. The Olah was unique because the entire animal was consumed. The priest didn't keep a steak. The worshiper didn't take a doggy bag. It was a total smoke out for God.
So if we're putting that in the modern mirror, is that like a total life reset?
It's the all-in moment. Think of it like a subscription service. Most of our lives, we give God the freemium version. We give him Sunday mornings, maybe a quick prayer before a meal, a little 15-minute quiet time if the Wi-Fi is down. We give him a slice of the pie. But the olah is God saying, I don't want a slice. I want the whole oven.
Ouch. That hits. It's like when you're soft launching a relationship on Instagram versus changing your status to married. One is a hint, the other is a total commitment.
Exactly. The olah is the status change. It's saying, everything I am, my career, my time, my physical body, it's all yours. And remember that semicha we talked about, the leaning? When the worshiper leaned on the animal's head, they were saying, this animal represents my whole life. In our world, that's like putting your entire weight on a bridge. You're not just testing it with your toe, you're trusting it to hold everything.
But then we move to Leviticus 2, the mincha, the grain offering. This one is different because it's bloodless. It's flour, oil, and frankincense. John, why does God care about my baking skills?
It's not about the baking, Steph. It's about the daily grind. Think about what flour is. You have to plant the seed, wait for the rain, harvest it, grind it down, sift it. It's work. The mincha is the modern mirror for our 9 to 5.
So it's like hallowing my cubicle?
Totally. It's taking the fruit of your labor, your paycheck, your creativity, your spreadsheets, and saying, God, I recognize that I couldn't even breathe without you, so I'm bringing the results of my hard work back to the source. But here's the kicker, the no jargon rule for the mincha. God had 2 very specific banned ingredients, no leaven and no honey.
Wait, why no honey? Honey is natural. It's sweet. Who hates honey?
God doesn't hate honey, but in the context of the altar, honey represents human sweetness. It's that fake, trying too hard vibe. You know when someone is being performative on social media? Everything is blessed. Every photo is filtered, and they're just sickly sweet?
Oh, the toxic positivity vibe?
Yes. God is saying, I don't want your filtered, honey-coated version of yourself. I want the fine flour. I want the real, processed, honest work of your life. And leaven? Leaven is pride. It puffs things up. It makes a tiny bit of dough look like a giant loaf. God's like, don't bring your ego to the altar. I can't work with a heart that's inflated by its own hype.
Okay, so no clout chasing at the tabernacle. I get it. But he did require salt. The salt of the covenant.
The salt. That's the modern mirror for durability. Back then, salt was the only way to keep meat from rotting. It was the preservative of the relationship. When you add salt to the offering, you're saying, this relationship isn't a one-hit wonder. It's a permanent contract. It's like the terms of service that actually matter. It's God's way of saying, my promise to you doesn't have an expiration date.
I love that. So the olah is my heart, the mincha is my work, but then there's Leviticus 3, the shelomim, the peace offering. You called this the ancient dinner party.
This is the one where everyone gets a plate. See, with the olah, it's all God's. With the mincha, the priests get some. But with the shelomim, the worshiper actually gets to sit down in the courtyard and eat the meat. It's the only sacrifice where you participate in the meal.
So it's not just fixing a problem or saying sorry.
No, that's the big hidden gem. A lot of people think the Bible is just about, I messed up, please don't be mad. But the peace offering is about community and abundance. The Hebrew root is shalom. And for our modern seekers, we have to explain that shalom isn't just the absence of war. It's not just a quiet room. It's wholeness. It's having everything you need to flourish.
So the modern mirror for the peace offering is what? A Thanksgiving dinner? A celebratory blowout?
It's a shared table. It's that feeling when you finally get the whole squad together. No phones, no drama, just good food and deep connection. It's God saying, I don't just want to be your judge, I want to be your host. It's the +1 invite to the most exclusive table in existence. You move from the outer court of just observing to actually dining with the divine.
That is so beautiful, John. It makes the whole fat and kidneys part feel so much more intentional. It's about giving God the best parts, the internal stuff, the emotions, and then sharing the rest with the people you love.
Exactly. It's about relational harmony. If the olah is surrender and the mincha is work, the shalomim is the vibe of the kingdom. It's a celebration of being right with God.
But wait, John? What about the people who feel like they can't afford the premium sacrifice? Like we saw in the olah tiers. Some brought bulls, but some could only bring a pigeon.
Oh, I love that you brought that up. That is the ultimate mirror of inclusivity. God never gatekeeps the altar based on your bank account. If you're a high roller, bring the bull. If you're a struggling student working 3 jobs, bring the pigeon. The aroma is the same to God. The pleasing savor doesn't depend on the price tag. It depends on the leaning.
So God doesn't have a pay-to-play model.
No in-app purchases for holiness. It's all about the heart drawing near. Corbin, the nearness.
Man, I feel like I finally understand why these chapters are at the start of Leviticus. It's not just a list of rules. It's an invitation to a lifestyle of proximity.
It really is. It's the blueprint for nearness. But hey, we've talked about the light, the shaving, the second chances, and the barbecue, but we haven't talked about how this all points forward.
You mean the connective tissue?
Exactly. Because all these shadows, the lamb, the flour, the shared meal, they're all standing in the light of someone much bigger.
I can't wait to get into that. But first, let's take another quick break. I need to go check if we have any honey in the pantry that I need to, reconsider.
Just keep it off the altar, Steph. We'll be right back to tie this all together in segment 3. Don't go anywhere!
And we are back from our break. I think I've officially been convinced that while honey belongs on my morning toast, it definitely stays far away from my symbolic altar. John, you were just about to hit us with the connective tissue. How all these gold lamps and grainy cakes and, well, splashing blood actually point forward to Jesus.
This is where it goes from ancient history to mind-blown territory, Steph. Because if we treat Leviticus 1 to 3 and Numbers 8 and 9 like they're just old rules, we're missing the fact that these are actually trailers for the main event.
So it's like the Marvel mid-credits scene? We're looking for the clues for the next movie?
Exactly. But it's the best kind of clue. Think about the olah, the burnt offering, from Leviticus 1. We said it was about total surrender, the entire animal going up in smoke. In the modern mirror, that is the Jesus-level commitment. Hebrews says that Jesus is the true olah. He didn't just give a slice of his life. He was the whole burnt offering. He laid down everything on the cross. When the smoke of the olah ascended as a pleasing aroma, it was a shadow of the cross being the ultimate pleasing aroma to God because it finally, once and for all, solved the gap problem.
I love that. And it makes sense with the mincha, too, the grain offering. Jesus actually calls himself the bread of life, right?
Boom! You nailed it. The mincha was the gift offering, the fruit of human labor. Jesus comes as a human, does the perfect work that we couldn't do, and then offers his own body as the bread that sustains us. He's the fine flour without the leaven of pride or the honey of fake sweetness. He's the real deal.
But wait, John, here's a big question. I'm looking at Numbers 9 again, the Passover. There's that specific instruction in verse 12. It says they weren't allowed to break any of the bones of the Passover lamb. Why that detail? It seems so random when you're just reading it at 6 a.m. over cereal.
That is a total hidden gem, Steph. It's what scholars call a typological rehearsal. In the wilderness, they didn't know why they couldn't break the bones. They just knew it was the rule. But fast forward 1,400 years to the crucifixion. The soldiers were going around breaking the legs of the people on the crosses to make them die faster. But when they got to Jesus, he was already dead, so they didn't break his legs. John's Gospel literally quotes this verse from Numbers 9 and says, "This happened so that the scripture would be fulfilled. Not one of his bones will be broken."
Wow. So God was literally scripting the rescue mission over 1,000 years in advance?
Every single detail, even the korban, that word we keep using for sacrifice, which means to draw near. Jesus is the ultimate korban. He didn't just offer a sacrifice to God. He is the nearness. He's the one who reaches across the gap and says, "You don't have to stay in the outer court anymore. I'm bringing you all the way into the Holy of Holies."
That actually makes me think of those men in Numbers 9, the ones who were kept back because they were unclean. They were so heartbroken about being excluded. In our world, so many people feel kept back from God because of their past, or their mess, or just because they feel like they aren't holy enough to walk through the doors of a church.
And the second Passover is God's way of saying, "My grace is wider than your schedule." If those guys got a second chance because they were burying a relative, how much more do we get a second chance through Christ? He's our permanent second Passover. He's the provision for the hindered and the outsider.
So, it's not about being perfectly clean before you start. It's about having that heart that cries out, "Why am I kept back?" If you want to be near, God has already provided the how.
Exactly. But Steph, we can't forget the field trip theology of the blood. I know it's the part that makes people squeamish, but we have to talk about kafar.
Right. The Hebrew word for atonement.
Most people hear atonement and think legal payment, but kafar literally means to cover. Think about it like this. In the wilderness, they had these outward signs of uncleanness to remind them that they had inward uncleanness. The blood wasn't about God being a vampire. It was about the life-for-life exchange. The blood covered the sin, so a holy God could stay in the camp without the camp, exploding.
So, in the modern mirror, it's like a protective layer?
It's like the lead apron you wear when you get an X-ray. The radiation of God's holiness is too much for our mess to handle directly. The kafar, the covering, is what lets us stand in the presence of the divine light from Numbers 8 without being consumed by it. And the connective tissue is that Jesus' blood doesn't just cover the sin like a rug, it actually washes it away.
That is the best news I've heard all day. So, the Levites shave their hair to start fresh. Aaron lights the lamps so we aren't in the dark. And we sit down at the peace offering table to eat with the Creator. It's all about relationship.
Every bit of it. It's God moving into the neighborhood and setting up the guest room for us.
Well, I am ready to move in. John, we've covered a lot today. Numbers 8, Numbers 9, and the first 3 chapters of Leviticus. If you had to give our modern seekers a text message summary for the day, one sentence that fits in a caption, what would it be?
Here it is. God isn't looking for a perfect performance. He's looking for a heart that wants to draw near, and He's provided everything you need to bridge the gap.
I love that. No gatekeeping, no jargon, just access.
None at all.
So, here's your action step for today, guys. We talked about semaka, the leaning heavily on the sacrifice. Today, I want you to find one thing you've been carrying on your own, a worry, a mistake from your past, a goal you're stressing over, and lean it on Jesus. Don't just tap it. Put your whole weight on it. Trust that His sacrifice is enough to cover you and carry you today.
Yeah. Stop simping for your own efforts and let the final Olah do the heavy lifting.
Simping for your own efforts? John, you are definitely spending too much time on TikTok.
Hey, I'm just trying to keep it lit for the community.
Oh, stop. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us for day 47. We are so glad you're on this journey with us. Tomorrow, we get into more Leviticus, and trust me, it gets even more interesting.
We're talking vibe checks for the priests. You don't want to miss it. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share this with a friend who needs a second Passover moment today.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Peace.